Well, this was only a matter of time. I just wasn't sure when because, but anyway, after what seemed like an eternity, Keiji Inafune's spiritual successor to the classic Mega Man series has finally arrived, and it's got people stirring for better or worse. A bit of all that media hype has died down since the release over a week ago, but it's still pretty fresh on everyone's minds, and I'm here to continue the ongoing conversation, I guess. What began seemingly as a passion project to give long-running Mega Man fans a game they could sink their teeth into, given that Capcom seems to no longer care about the original Blue Bomber, soon transformed into an internet media circus of mismanagement, overambition with how many gaming devices this title was being programmed for, not to mention an animated series for a game that wasn't even out yet. And then there was the whole Redash project trying to capitalize on the Mega Man Legends buzz without focusing on their first project. Then there was the abysmal marketing campaign that wasn't sure how it wanted to sell itself. And topping all this off, to me, was a severe lack of communication between developers and backers during the final year of press. The numerous delays are what really rubbed me the wrong way, and I get that shit happens. Whether you're an aspiring game designer or a AAA developer, sometimes things may go wrong, and that's fine. But again, the communication was next to zilch. I get the game had to be pushed back a lot, but I wasn't clear on why all this was happening. I was excited for Mighty Number 9, as a lot of people were, but excitement would eventually turn to confusion, and later on, ambivalence. When this game officially launched on June 21st, I thought, oh, right, I should probably get to that. And I fucking backed this game! I speak as a generous $20 backer, not an anonymous generous backer, which makes up about 70% of the 4-hour-long credits reel, but look, there's my name right there. And for the record, I don't regret plugging this game during the Mega Man marathon I did a couple years back, and I get that question from time to time. It's like, boy, don't you feel stupid for backing this game? And my answer to that will always be no, because back then I had every reason to believe this game was going to rock our socks off. How was I supposed to predict that this game was going to crash and burn the way it did? I couldn't predict that. Nobody could predict that. So I don't regret my plug I did a couple years back when Mighty Number 9 was still a budding Kickstarter project. But to say that Mighty Number 9's development painted crowdfunded video game campaigns in a darker light would be underselling the shit out of that. The aftershock is still quite prevalent in gaming outlets, and the damage to concept has been done, regardless of Mighty Number 9's actual game quality. It's a damn shame. But despite that, crowdfunded games have produced great titles. I loved Shovel Knight, Dust and Elysian Tale was a good time. I'm still very much looking forward to Shantae Half Genie Hero, Yooka-Laylee, Indivisible, and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Now, I probably just spent about 2 minutes just talking about how much of a disaster Mighty Number 9's eventual release was, but you know what? The game is finally out now. I got my computer ready to go. Let's take a look at it. And yes, I'm looking at the Steam version because that's the version I opted for, and I'm glad I did, because I've heard horror stories about the Nintendo Wii U port, the janky frame rate, that the game was prone to crashing, the 20 to 25 second load times after every death. Sweet Jesus. Not to say that the PC version was problem free. When I downloaded the game the morning it came out from Humble Bundle, my antivirus software picked up the exe file as malware, and yes, I use it fast, it's good enough for me, damn it. And then there was the issue of Steam telling me that my DLC codes were invalid, and they wouldn't fix that problem until like half a day later. Still, the PC version is considered the most stable, so if you're planning on getting the game, get it on Steam, Humble Bundle, whatever floats your boat, on a computer. That's what I'm trying to say here. But that's assuming it's even worth it. So let's talk about the game. In a world where robots gather and fight each other in coliseums as a form of entertainment, things turn south when a virus begins to spread, causing robots worldwide to malfunction and start attacking people. 8 robots created by Dr. William White, known as the Mighty Numbers, are the primary cause of concern, so Dr. White sends his latest creation, Beck, or Mighty Number 9, to restore everything to normal and find the culprit of this virus attack. Accompanying the robot hero as mission control is Call, a female robot with zero personality or any emotional range, who was created by Dr. Sanda, whose only contribution to the story, as far as I could tell, is that he created Call. You got your protagonists, you got the bad guys. After that, it's a standard Mega Man story where Beck travels through different stages, confronting the next mighty number at the end, where you then whip their ass, you knock some sense back into the rampaging robot, and then you move on. It's about what I expected. The character designs are different, but it's essentially Mega Man, and any attempt to be something more is undermined by how short the main campaign ends. These characters have their quirks, and by God, that's all they got. Beck is the reluctant hero, Call is a piece of wood, Sanda is the bumbling but well-meaning coward, and Dr. White sounds like he wants nothing to do with anything. But that might be because of the voice acting, which is not very good at all, even if I am familiar with some of these actors and actresses, and dear God, this presentation. How do you feel about repeatedly static 3D models that barely emote and practice in ventriloquism. Come on, if you were going to do it this way, I think it would have been better if dialogue were presented with character portraits that changed to fit current emotions. There's just something about 3D models doing it that feels cheap, and I know Mighty No. 9 is a throwback to gaming in the 90s, but this doesn't feel like an intentional artistic decision, it feels like a budgeted decision. And the sound mixing can use some work as well. I can barely hear the music over the sound effects and the voice chatter. I had to tweak with the configuration menu just to listen in. Rarely do I have to do that for a game, and to my surprise, I thought the music was only alright. I'm shocked. Mighty No. 9 doesn't look very good at a standstill, especially if you're comparing it to what it looked like in concept. Granted, I never thought the game was going to look like this from the start. I would love it to, but it didn't seem realistic. Then again, Dust was made by one guy, and I feel this game could have been much better graphically in both character models and in environments. This right here, this doesn't cut it. It's like a PS1 game that was quickly polished for the Dreamcast. But to be fair, when in motion, when you're running and jumping and shooting like you would do in Mega Man, it looks fine. Beck's running cycle looks a little goofy, but enemies are up and about with cartoonish grace. The graphical effects, though standard, fill up the screen whenever you're shooting a weapon or causing explosions or dashing through the air. It's certainly not the best in the department, but it's passable. It checks a box off of the list, as does the gameplay, because it's Mega Man. I mean, sort of goes without saying, look at it. You shoot like Mega Man, you jump like Mega Man, you take hits like Mega Man, you fall down pits like Mega Man, you die from spikes like Mega Man, you grab health pickups like Mega Man, you absorb boss abilities like Mega Man, and only use a few of them like Mega Man. I'm gonna take a gander and guess if you're a Mega Man fan, you've already invested in this, either through the Kickstarter or you bought it day one when it came out, and I hope you're enjoying it. As a casual fan of classic Mega Man, I think Mighty No. 9 is a perfectly playable follow-up to the Blue Bomber's cemented legacy. I think controls are responsive, Beck's got a right amount of weight to his movements, I love how he can grab ledges and pull himself up from certain death, and his dash ability makes for some wickedly fast gameplay. When you shoot an enemy enough, they begin emitting some flashy colors. When this happens, you can assimilate them by dashing into them, delivering an instant kill that can replenish special ammo for weapons, give you point bonuses for a better end-stage rank, and grant temporary power-ups to Beck's mobility, ranging from increased firepower, added defenses, or extra speed. Since you're free to pick any stage in whatever order you desire, Beck can blast through the stage with nothing but his pea shooter, but as you might expect, you can also use weapons you score from defeating bosses. I'm sure there's some form of utility I'm not seeing here for these tools, but I only got some major use from 3 out of the 8 possible weapons. Cryo's weapon because it can freeze things in place and ammunition is super simple to restore. Brand's weapon because it's a close range sword attack that costs no ammo to use, assuming you're not using the charge attack. It can also neutralize projectiles, or at least turn off their hitboxes? That's what it looks like it's happening here. I'm not sure why it works, but it does. Finally, Bat's weapon is the Crash Bomber from Mega Man 2, only extremely pissed off. It destroys everything so easily. It's like, fuck you, I don't have time for this bullshit. You can assign up to 3 special weapons to button shortcuts for immediate access, and that's fine, but to shift to other weapons in real time, that's clunky. You either stop in place and select your weapon from this real-time weapon selector, or pause the game and change what weapons you want for your shortcuts. It's not as quick and accessible as it was like in Mega Man X, where all you need to do is hit the shoulder buttons to scroll through your weapons. Besides that, Mega Man players can jump right into this with little problem, I think. Which also means if you didn't enjoy classic Mega Man and all of its trappings, Mighty No. 9 will do little to convince you. There's nothing innovative about it, some things may feel outright dated by today's standards. It's got everything that defines classic Mega Man, and that includes its trial and error gameplay. Now, is it a super tough, kick you in the balls sort of hard? Absolutely not. I don't think the level design is overtly punishing. It's surprising how much you can get away with dashing repeatedly in midair, which sort of neuters platforming in a sense, and once you get your first boss ability, the rest of the bosses fall apart and challenge when you know what weapons is good for the scenario, something remarkably easy to discover for yourself. But even so, it's clear this game wasn't meant for today's average gamer. This game's difficulty is classical, or archaic, I guess it depends on the player. You got instant kill obstacles, limited lives, bottomless pits, the occasional instance of bullshit enemy placement, knockback. Hell, it's even got a throwback to Mega Man 1 with how invincibility frames won't save you from spike collision, which I don't think anybody asked for, so why the fuck is that here? When you're not using the proper weapon, bosses can give you serious shit because all of them, in one form or another, pretty much has an instant win scenario, which can kind of fucking blow when you make even a simple mistake. It's not asking for perfect play, but it's frustrating as shit nonetheless. Unless we're playing an ultra flashy spectacle fighter with quick time events, conversation should not be had during boss fights in Mega Man. I hate when Beck begins talking to his fellow Mighty Numbers during battle, or when one of your buddies decides now is a good time to talk. It is distracting, it disrupts my pattern reading, I can't hear proper audio cues, and when bosses have instant kill attacks, that's doubly, triply irritating. Some of this only applies during your first mighty number encounter, granted, because again, once you got the right power up, they drop like flies. It's almost sad. It's just, let me deal with the robot first, and then we can share our stories telepathically later, alright? But conversations can also occur in the middle of stages where they are admittedly less intrusive. In fact, I'll compliment them. How many times have we played a Mega Man game, specifically in the X series, where they decide to halt the action to have some dialogue? It's annoying. I want to get a move on, so come on, let's go. Dialogue here happens as things move along, so the pace remains consistent, and since stages aren't as hectic as boss battles, it's easier to absorb. And you know what else I like? When you defeat a mighty number, you restore that robot back to normal, and when you're in the proper stage, that same mighty number can appear and assist back with a stage hazard, give you some helpful advice, or just have some goofy exchanges. I honestly think that's a neat idea. It works as a gameplay mechanic, but also gives these guys, however small the dialogue may be, a deeper sense of character in relation to Beck that Mega Man would never get from Roll, Proto Man, or even Bass. It makes these robots feel like an actual family that stick together through thick and thin. Yeah, most people don't play these games for plot, and Mighty Number 9 is not Team Ico levels of deep, but it's a detail I appreciate. With how this game rewards the player for taking no damage or using tricky tactics to disrupt boss patterns or clearing challenges quickly, I feel Mighty Number 9 only offers the most fun to the speedrunner. The person who gets their jollies from playing this and that repeatedly, whether it's to get a better rank or unlock that achievement, because casually, the most you're going to get out of this is a standard Mega Man game, and I suppose that's okay, but Mighty Number 9's total level of enjoyment may be limited to perfectionists, and this sort of extends to the bonus content. Like the retro skin for Beck, only available to use in Maniac mode, the difficulty where everything kills you in one hit. It doesn't even look retro, it looks more like a Minecraft skin. And what about the extra character Ray, the not zero of Mighty Number 9? She's essentially the speedrun mode. Her health constantly drains, meaning you gotta haul ass, you gotta kill enemies to restore her health, and you gotta dash like mad to the end of the stage. I like Ray as a playable character and what she can do physically, but playing through some of these stages with her handicap can be a fucking nightmare. It's there if you really want to try and get some more content for your money spent, because let me tell you, online mode sure as fuck ain't gonna give you your money's worth. I mean, holy fuck, guys. Online in this game is a total train wreck. Even with both players having optimal internet speeds or decent PC setups, there was tons of latency issues. The game would crash at specific junctures. Frames were dropping like crazy for both characters. I mean, look at this. Beck is moving at 60 frames per second and Call is moving at around 12. Collision detection goes right out the fucking window with certain obstacles. Indeed, climb that ladder, Beck. The one by your side is merely an illusion. Plus, it just feels broken. Like, when two players do a race, there's no real finish line. Every time we got to the end, the boss door never opened, and both of us were stuck waiting for the timer to hit 0. Like, what's going on here? And after that, we just awkwardly cut to the boss fight. They delayed the game for this, by the way, and it's still broken. Unfortunately, Mighty Number 9 will most definitely be remembered as the new definition of mismanaged because, yes, while the game is perfectly playable, it's a Mega Man game that Mega Man fans can get some enjoyment from, and to some that's all that matters, and more power to you. I just think the process of getting to this point wasn't worth it. Through the constant delays, the mediocre production values, the shoddy programming for console ports, the outright broken online system, all this for a game that has as much value and limited appeal as Mega Man 4 or 5, which were okay games, but that's all they were. Okay. Is it worth $20 digitally or $30 physically? No, I don't think so. And I don't know when this game will be getting a price drop anytime soon, but even if that were to happen, I could only recommend this game to Mega Man fans, even further, Mega Man veterans, because they could probably get the most out of it with what little Mighty Number 9 has to offer already. My apologies if some of you were expecting me to get a little more enraged, but I'm not angry. I'm disappointed, and we all know from experience that's a hell of a lot worse. I am speaking as a backer of this project. I am Mighty Number 3254. I am not Mighty, and I recommend you spend your time and money on something else. So there you have it. Mighty Number 9, the game 3 years in the making, $4 million to produce, and it's merely okay. Well, the Star Fox Marathon is just about good to go, but bear with me. There's one more game I want to look at before I launch myself into the Lilat system. And maybe you've heard of a game called Overwatch buzzing around from time to time, and I don't know why, but I've had the hots for this game for like a couple of weeks now, and I want to give it a shot. Maybe I could recommend it to you guys. With that said, that's the next game I'm looking at, so I will see you all then and there. With all that said, thank you guys for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic night, and take care.